as long as you're looking at agreement lately, the next thing we can easily go to then is pronoun agreement. So just like subjects and verbs, pronouns also have words in a sentence with which they agree. Sometimes pronouns need to actually agree with the verb. And we'll look at that as we jump in. But first, you're probably hoping for a little pronoun review. Okay? So before we get our thinking caps on and jump into the thinking bubble, let's look at what is a pronoun. Pronouns are a part of speech. You may remember from elementary and middle school that we have 8 parts of speech, and pronouns are one of them. A pronoun's job is to replace nouns. This helps us with our sentence fluency. We don't have to keep repeating names all the time because we have pronouns that can stand in for them. Get a little bit of rest, add some flow. You most likely recognize them as he, she, it, they, I. You probably just aren't used to hearing them referred to as pronouns. Remember, all pronouns have an antecedent, which is just a fancy word saying the noun that the pronoun replaces. The antecedent is what the pronoun must agree with. Let's jump in. First off, pronouns have a number and gender. So now we said all words have a number, either singular or plural. Okay. Same thing for pronouns. Either you're going to have singular pronouns or you're going to have plural pronouns. What makes their agreement more difficult is that they also have a gender that they must follow. Right? They must also agree based on whether they're masculine, feminine, or neuter. Obviously, he, masculine, refers to male. It's a male pronoun. She, feminine, refers to female. And it we call neuter because it doesn't have a specified gender. So, rule number 1 for matching pronouns. Pronouns must agree in number and gender. You see our example sentences that you should write down. Ezra prophesied to meet a king. He often risked his life to serve the truth. We know Ezra is one person, right? So he's a singular antecedent. So I replace that with he, which is a singular masculine pronoun. Right? Ezra is male. My pronoun needs to be masculine. The second sentence. The boys wanted to see a movie. They looked up the listings online. Okay. Boys, subject sentence, more than one. So I have a plural antecedent. Notice my they is a plural pronoun. And unlike other languages, anytime you have a plural like this, you can use they. Right? Whether it's a bunch of girls or a bunch of boys or boys and girls, we'll use they for the plural. Okay, but here's my little note to you. If gender could be either masculine or feminine, and it is singular, his or her should be used, not their. Like, a lot of people want to use their. And I'm not saying if we know that for sure, it's not neuter, right? So if we know it's not neuter, for example, the word student. Students are people, so they're either going to be male or female. But if I'm talking about a whole class, I don't have any class that's just females or any class that's just males. So when I say each student must bring his or her textbook to class, because it's not plural, it's singular, but I'm representing both genders. Okay? Okay. Our next step in our pronoun journey. Not only do they have a gender and a number, pronouns also have a case. We have 3 cases. The possessive case, Possessives show ownership. We have the subjective case, and we're working with subjects, so you should see subject in there as the root. Subjective just means replacing nouns or acting as subjects. So if the pronoun is replacing something that's a subject, so it's acting as a subject, you use a subjective pronoun. If it's replacing a noun acting as an object, and we'll talk about objects later on as a new term to you, know that that's the objective case. So here's an easy hint though, if you're freaking out about objects. If it comes before the verb, it's a subject. If it comes after the verb, it's an object. Now those aren't the only rules, but until we deal with objects, that's all you need to know. Before the verb, subject. After the verb, object. And you can see the examples of the different cases. This is why you get harped on about I and me all the time. I, subjective. It can only be used as a subject. Me, objective. Can only be used as an object. And then we know that we have my or mine, which are possessive pronouns. Right? They show ownership. So rule number 2. Pronouns must also agree in case. The man locked his keys in the car. The possessive pronoun, right, because it's showing ownership of whose keys, but it also agrees with man. So it is masculine. So masculine possessive, because it's showing a male owns something. Right? Because Mr. Phelps wanted the pronoun notes, John gave him a copy. Okay? An objective pronoun agrees with Mr. Phelps. Right? Mr. Phelps is male, so I need a male pronoun. I know that him is masculine, and I also know that's objective. And then lastly, Elizabeth looked around the corner. She wanted to make sure no cars were coming. And the subjective pronoun agrees with Elizabeth. As the female, I need a feminine. I see that it's before the verb, so it also needs to be subjective. Okay? That is the action doer. It's taking the place of the subject. If you're still really confused about which pronouns are subjects or which pronouns are always objects, there is a chart, pronoun chart, on the class website for you to download. Just look under the grammar folder in the handouts page, and there will be a pronoun chart for you. That's the subject pronouns and the object pronouns, as well as possessive pronouns. Alright, now let's talk about the special circumstances. Because always in English grammar we have special circumstances. It's just something we have to face. Some of these special circumstances are going to look very familiar to you, because they're the same special circumstances we had with subject-verb agreement. For instance, collective nouns, expressions of amounts, and using or nor. The only thing we're going to add this time is the indefinite pronoun. So let's start with indefinite pronouns. Basically, indefinite means we really don't know if they are masculine or feminine. Right? They refer to large groups of people. So you can see these: anybody, anyone, anything, each, either, everybody, everyone, everything, neither, nobody, no one, nothing, one, somebody, someone, or something are always singular. Okay. So they need singular verbs when they are used. Right. They also need to replace singular noun. Right? That's when we looked at changing out you from our writing. We replace them with these words because you assumes a reader is one person. Both, few, many, and several, always plural, and they imply plural. They imply that there's more than one. Now you have your tricky one. All, any, more, most, none, or some can be either singular or plural. And you're going to know what they are based on what follows them in the sentence. So, example, most of the pie is eaten. Singular. I'm referring to one pie. Most of the pies, there, most is plural. So I have my plural verb, right? Most are eaten. Because there's more than one pie. Okay, moving on. Other special circumstances. Singular antecedents joined with or nor get singular pronouns. Okay, so let's look at the example. Sadie or Barbara will share her presentation today. Even though it's a compound subject, I'm still looking at them as individual people. So I need to use an individual pronoun. Neither Jack nor Bill saves his box tops for education. Again, combined with nor, I have a compound subject, but they are two different individuals, and so I have to go with the singular pronoun. Much like the verb agrees with the closest one, the pronoun has to agree with which it is placing. Antecedents joined with and get plural pronouns. And again, we saw that with the subject-verb agreement, when they get joined together with and, they become plural. So they need plural pronouns. Jack and Greg run to their home every night after school. You can see I've used the plural possessive there. And that's something to note. Oftentimes people get confused with the different theirs. If it's a plural possessive, you need to have the H-E-I-R, right? That spells heir. Heirs are people who own because possessions were given to them. Right? So think T heir, and you'll have the appropriate there for possessive. Alright, collective nouns. Right, those nouns that stand for one group. Okay. So if referring to the group as a whole, you would give a singular pronoun. If referring to the individual members of the group, give a plural noun. Right, so this one's the exact same rule, really, as the subject-verb agreement. Right, the class must come up with rules for its discussion. And we're looking at the class as a whole, so I have a singular pronoun. The class right there reports tomorrow. Look at the individual members of the class there. Each of them must write a report, so if I'm talking about more than one, then they need to get plural because I'm talking about all of the members of this class. Okay, lastly, I have expressions of amount. Okay. These are the exact same rules as subject-verb agreement. So if the amount is thought of as a singular when treated as one unit. Right? I got a 90 on my test. It is a good grade. That 90% is one score. Right? $5 in my wallet. It won't buy me much. Notice this again, the singular. $5 is thought of as one amount. If the amount is thought of as plural when it's thought of as plural when an individual part. Okay. So that is when we think of it as plural. So 10 pens are hard to knock. Okay. But I hit them for a strike yesterday. Notice I had to use the plural objective because it came after a verb, but I'm referring to 10 individual items. Okay, so now it becomes plural. So that is what I have for you for pronoun agreement. And again, it's very similar to subject-verb agreement, and this will actually conclude our sentence errors, so we can actually move on to sentence element next week.